Hi, it's Rhonda, and today we're going to do an example of what a 7-card expanded modern Oracle Tarot reading would look like. If you're familiar with the website, there's a tab at the top of the page that says Reading Examples. If you click that, that'll take you to lots of examples of what an email reading would be like. In fact, those are actual email readings that people have given me permission to share with you as an example. Today, though, hopefully this video will give you a better idea of what an in-person session or a Skype session would be like. And right off the top, I'd like to thank my client ND for giving me permission to share this with you. We all owe her a debt of gratitude for helping me to help you. Her question today is, in general, what does the future hold for my family? That question, as simple as it may seem, is actually a bit more complicated than it might look like at first blush, for a couple different reasons. Well, first of all, in setting up this reading, the client has given me some pretty big hints about what's been going on with her family, things that you don't have to be a psychic to figure out. And if it's any reassurance, those are things that any spouse or parent would be concerned about, so I totally get it where she's coming from with this question. I mean, every parent and spouse worries about their family. But when you're working with tarot, it gets a little bit trickier than that for two reasons here. You see how she asked about the future? In tarot, you can't predict the future. No one can. We can give you ideas of what's probable, the general directions things are going, the energies you'll be dealing with as you move forward, but there are no 100% accurate predictions. If you'd like more information about the reason behind why I think that, there's loads. As any of you who are familiar with the blog know, that's one of my favorite topics, and there are loads and loads and loads of blog topics about that. So feel free to browse the website to get that background. So as we're doing this reading today, we're not going to be predicting the future, but getting some ideas about what's the best way to move through the future and what might be some best choices that you can make to help you find the best future for yourself. It's because it's all about creating a future, not predicting it. The other problem with a question like this, as benign as it is and as easy as it may seem, is it involves other people. And tarot can't read minds. The choices for other family members make are theirs alone, and it's not for me to read their minds or go rummaging through their psyche or their hearts to know what's going on with them. So without their direct permission, I can't really read them. So most of this reading is going to focus directly on ND, not on the family so much. So in general, the thrust of this is going to be how she can best help her family, how she can best choose and guide and do her part to bring about the best possible future for them all, but no definite predictions, no looks into the minds or hearts of other family members. Now, when we work together in person, usually I'll let you decide how many times I shuffle the cards. When I'm working by email or by video like this, often I'll shuffle however many syllables is in the person's name. Either one of those is going to help connect the energy of the reading to you directly. So you're going to have to trust me that I've already shuffled the cards this time, because I'm still waiting for my tablet holder to come in. It's on back order. I'm doing this by hand, so allow me to apologize now for all the technical problems that may come up with this. So forgive the amateur cinematography, but I've already shuffled the cards. We've already looked at the question. If we're doing this in person, sometimes we'll chat a little bit about the background of the cards, or if you have any questions about the process. But in this case, we'll just go ahead and get started. The first card is the Knight of Wands. This card represents lessons from the past. The next card is understanding your situation right now. The third card, it used to be read as a future card, but in this case, it's your next best step forward. What's the best thing you can do right now to move things along in a good direction? This card is what I call an advice or a pivot point card. It gives greatest respect to your choices and kind of reflects the fact that our choice guides our future. What you decide and what you do determines the future. It's not something set that can be predicted. So this is kind of a pivot point. It's something to think about that'll allow you to take things in a new direction if that's what you want to do. So lessons from the past, understanding now, moving forward, advice, or a pivot point card. This is the alternate direction. This is another way things can go if you choose. And in a 7 card, we only add 2 more cards. This is the basic modern Oracle Tarot card reading. These 5 cards are probably some of the most useful all-purpose layouts that I have. I do this one quite a bit. To turn it into the expanded reading, we just add 2 more cards. This one I call Assets. That's just energies and things in general that are working in your favor. And this one is what I call Cautions. That is things to think about maybe avoiding, things to think about maybe doing differently, things that might trip you up as you try to steer things in the direction you want to go. Now I'm going to try and turn my tablet here a little bit so you can see all the cards at once. Not that that helped, mind you. Like I said, I'm still working on the technical aspects of this, so forgive me for the shakiness and the poor production value, but we're getting this figured out. In any case, here's the 7 cards. Now to start off with on any reading, what I'll do is I'll look at the card pattern in general. And the biggest thing about the general pattern of the cards is the Arcana. The tarot deck has 78 cards in it, so it has quite a few more than the modern playing deck. That's because back in the old days, when tarot was still just a card game, there's a whole other suite or category of cards called the Major Arcana, or sometimes you'll hear them called the Trumps, because that's how they functioned in the game. They were literally the trump cards, like you might have in, what is it, gin or rummy, something like that. The rest of the cards are divided up into 4 suites. The rest of the cards are called the Minor Arcana, and the Minor Arcana has 4 suites like our modern playing deck: coins, cups, wands, and swords. And they're very akin or analogous to our clubs, aces, spades, diamonds, and hearts. In this case, in this particular spread, we only have 1 Major Arcana card. That's the Fool in the center. The rest are all Minor Arcana cards. And when the Minor Arcana dominates like that, typically what that means is that either you're at a good place energy-wise, things are balanced, or if you're feeling stress right now, that can sometimes be a clue that things are on the downhill side. The worst of the stress is over, or sometimes it means that when you look back at this time with 2020 hindsight, then when you look at this time in 2020's hindsight, then you realize that maybe this time really wasn't as bad as it feels right now. When we look at the suites that are represented by the Minor Arcana cards, we see lots of cups and coins, 1 wand. So overall, you have 3 of the 4 possible suites represented. Again, a hint at balance or a return to balance. It's not surprising to see cups cards because the suite of cups, in general, tends to represent close relationships. A lot of people want to associate them with romances, but it can be any close relationship. Marriages, children, family. And since that's top of mind here, it's not surprising to see several cups cards in this spread. Um, I don't see any repeating numbers or anything else of consequence with the general pattern, so what we do now is we move on to looking at the cards one by one. The first card is Lessons from the Past. It's the Knight of Wands. Its traditional meaning is confidence. Um, Cards can give any of a number of flavors or types of messages. Sometimes they give messages that are advice, something you might want to think about doing, cautions, something you might want to think about avoiding. Sometimes they're validation, just letting you know that the universe knows what you've been through, kind of a reassurance that way. This feels like an advice card. I don't know if there's been times in the past where you've been unsure of yourself or a bit of a ditherer, maybe, where it doesn't come easy to you to be very confident about your decisions or to have confidence in the future. And it may be that natural uncertainty that's driving you to ask the question and bring you to the reading today. That So the advice here would be to be aware of that. It feels like it's asking you to deliberately be more confident and daring and have some self-assurance. Um, there is a small sense that maybe some of the challenges you're experiencing now are coming into your life because it's to help you learn that. It's to help challenge you, push you to be more confident. And that's a tough thing to do. It's like when you, especially if you're a younger mother and you haven't had kids before, it's like it's normal, it's natural. Everybody second guesses themselves. But in your case, it feels like it may be just a little extra push towards confidence. So it's also just an ask of self-awareness. It's not saying that you're doing anything wrong or there's anything more dramatic you need to do. It's just when you catch yourself being a little uncertain, stop, take a look around, see if there's any real reason for that uncertainty, or whether it's just your natural tendency to have a little bit of trepidation. And once you look around and see that there's really nothing all that much to be afraid of, then you can move forward with a great deal of confidence. Um, Drawing from natural health and some other traditions, my mind is drawn to the idea of chakras. I don't know if you're familiar with those. Chakras are energy centers in the body. The idea of them come from Indian medicine and Eastern medicine. Um, what particularly comes to mind is the solar plexus chakra, which is located just below the ribs above the belly button. And that's believed to have to do with issues of self-confidence, self-assuredness, those sort of things. The color that's associated with that energy center is gold and yellow. So my mind is kind of drawn a little bit to the yellow in this guy's tunic on the card. So if you're feeling shaken or uncertain, wearing a little bit of gold jewelry, gold colors in your clothes, something like that, can sometimes help boost that confidence and help just kind of put your mind and energy in a place of confidence. Gold, the metal, is supposed to be particularly good for that. So if you have, it doesn't have to be actual gold, it's the color as much as the metal in this case. So if you have a tendency to wear jewelry, I would suggest gold tone rather than silver tone for a little while, just to help boost that confidence a little bit. So that's all that's coming through with that card right now. The next card is understanding what's going on right now. Now you see how it's upside down compared to the others, and it's upside down compared to where I sit, which is the person doing the reading. That card is called in reverse. Now some very old-fashioned readers would take and change the entire meaning of the card into its opposite. I don't do that. Anytime I'm reading a card, I look at all the possible meanings. There is no all positive or all negative card. So I take all of that into consideration, and when you do, the reversal or turning over upside down, especially in a deck that's handled frequently like this one is, reversals really aren't all that significant. Occasionally, it kind of gives a little extra context to the way you read the card. It may show that this particular idea or lesson or challenge might be a little blocked right now. It's giving you a particular problem, or that it may be a little extra challenging or stuck as you move through time. I don't get a big sense of that with this card. I think it's just like plain old, this deck's been shuffled a lot and it just happened to come up upside down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this puppy right over. Now with the Seven of Cups, its classic meaning is delusion, but it doesn't mean you're deluded. That's kind of an odd word to choose for this card, actually. I was just talking about it with a few friends on a podcast that I do about this card. And another meaning that we all kind of sensed with this card was, well, marketing calls it choice paralysis. It's almost when you have too much to choose from and too many possibilities, it's hard to make up your mind what you want to do. That may relate to the confidence issue in the card before, or it could just mean that things are a little overwhelming right now. There's a lot going on, a lot of decisions to be made, a lot to choose from. The upside to this card is that there's a lot to choose from, which means there's a lot of potential, a lot of hope, and you're going to have options. It's not like you're going to be stuck and backed into a corner with only one option to choose from. The feeling of it is that there'll be more to choose from than you may think right now. So look for those other opportunities, look for those wider horizons, look for unusual out-of-the-box solutions. I know some of the things crawling out of those cups can look a little bit odd, but that's just because the symbolism in these cards is over 100 years old. And I think that even though they may have other meanings that are very old, in the modern sense, in the contemporary sense, this card just says you got a lot going on, a lot to choose from. Be clear about what you decide. Don't let yourself get lost in the forest for the trees, as they say. So just kind of simplify your decision making a little bit, and it'll make it a whole lot easier for you. Try to avoid that choice paralysis. Make things clear and easy for yourself. Like that old phrase says, keep it simple. And that'll help you avoid any feeling of delusion, confusion, or being overwhelmed. So first we have the Knight of Wands. Wands represents our relationship with ourself. So the advice is for you to work with yourself and building your confidence. Cups have to do with, like I said, close relationships. So things may be feeling overwhelming with the family and everything that's going on right now. So simplify, make sure you see clearly. Be reassured that you're not going to be too backed into a corner. If there's any problems that turn up, it's going to be too many options rather than too few. So simplification and clarification are going to help you there. The next card is the Ace of Cups. Its traditional meaning is inner light, and this is the next step forward card. This is the card that gives you ideas how to move forward from here in the best way possible. And I relate this for some reason to creativity. That's not the traditional meaning for the card per se, although inner light and inspiration do go hand in hand. You see how the bird is bringing the biscuit down to the cup? Well, that has a lot of religious overtones for some people. It can also be read as inspiration, the classic muse. I don't know if you do anything creative or have creativity in your work, or maybe even are thinking about moving into some sort of creative work. I don't know why, but the idea of like arts and crafts fairs or an Etsy shop or something like that comes to mind. I don't know if there's anything like that you do want to do or have been thinking about doing as a way to supplement income, or just as a means of self-expression. Either one would be perfectly fine. I think it being a Cups card is saying that it would be of benefit to both you and the family, perhaps, if you were to pursue that. And That would also go along with the confidence idea. It's a scary, scary thing to start your own business, and it's a scary thing to rely on arts and creativity as a way to earn a living. It's very uncertain. And when you have kids, you want certain things so you can provide for them and protect them. So you may have to do a little logic and reason and maybe even backburner some of this until you feel confident in the position that the family's in. But in a way, too, it feels like this card is saying don't give up on your dreams. Even if you have to adapt or backburner things or delay the gratification of some things, don't give up on it entirely. Let your creativity come through. Follow that. And, let your light shine so others can see it too. You'll be an inspiration and it helps your family that way too. So that's a good positive way to take things for you and your family into the future rather than predicting what will happen. This is your advice card. And again, it's old language, old symbolism. Don't let the name fool you. The word fool has taken on some negative connotations in the modern era that it didn't have back in like the 14, 15, 1600s when these first became popular. Like I said, tarot cards back then was just a card game, but for the major arcana cards, the pictures were fairly commonly well known. In the first decks, only the major arcana, the trump cards, had pictures on it like this. The rest of them are just what we call pips, which is just the number of the symbol, kind of like our modern playing deck. Like the 5 of hearts has 5 hearts on it, or the 3 of spades has 3 spades on it, whatever. The tarot deck used to be like that too, and there are some decks that still have that. I want to say the Marseille deck, but I'm not sure about that. Anyway, the Fool card is your one and only major arcana card. Major arcana cards tend to symbolize the really big life lessons that we all learn, the sort of key points in a reading. The rest of the cards are just your day-to-day granny advice, less energetic, less critical kind of ideas. The Fool card, I think it connects very much with that Ace of Cups cards in that there's a sense of a new beginning with that creativity the Cups was talking about. If, for example, and I don't know if this is symbolic or literal for you, but if, for example, you were thinking of starting a business, starting a venture, starting a side project of some kind that involves creativity, like art or handcrafts or music or whatever it is that you really like and really turns you on, the Fool is about those things being your oyster. At the beginning of a trip, you can go in any one of 365 degrees. You can go in any direction you want to go. As a trip goes on, your choices of how far you can turn and still get where you want to go diminish a little bit. So being at the beginning of whatever creativity journey you choose, you have lots of possibilities, which relates to this card as well. So there's a lot of threads of choice, options, possibilities, the world is your oyster, as well as inspiration, creativity going through these cards. Another aspect of the Fool card, which does not by any means mean that you're foolish, like the modern sense. It has more to do with happiness, play, kind of a court jester, or that's kind of like the old English equivalent of a court jester, or what we would consider our stand-up comics. Someone like, say, George Carlin, that tells a lot of truth and speaks a lot of truth through their humor. The Fool card is a lot like that, and it's a reminder that at the beginning of a journey there's lots of possibilities, and it's also a reminder to not get too ponderous about these things. There's value in play, there's value in happiness, laughter really is the best medicine. So if you find your confidence lagging as you make your choices, discover your creativity, and start maybe some new projects, don't forget to enjoy the process. Moving down here, now all these kind of tie together. The Three of Coins is craft and art. Coins have to do with how you earn your living, the nuts and bolts, the physical realm of things. Like the wands are your relationship with yourself, so that's sort of the realm of emotions. Cups are the realm of relationships, romance, family, children, what have you. Coins are the physical work concerns. And the Three of Coins has to do with craft and art and collegial projects, sort of like working with other people. Um, Although in your case, I get more of a solo project sort of feeling here. If there's advice here, rather than working with other people as part of a team, like you might in a traditional work situation, it feels like it's encouraging you to foster your creativity too, but don't forget that there's other people, even in creative fields, like even if you take up knitting, there's other knitters, and there's all those patterns on the internet, so there's help to be had, is the advice here. As you pursue your dreams and do the things that you want to do, even though it may seem a little scary relative to caring for your family, um, there's always help and advice to be given. This reminds me a little bit of my own experience as I was starting to work with tarot more professionally. Since I come from a scientific background, I don't know a thing about business. So I consulted with the Small Business Administration. They have retired executives who will help people get businesses started and give them business advice. And so there's resources like that out there, no matter what moves or changes or projects that you might be considering. And I can't get, maybe it's because some of the things you mentioned as we set this up, but I can't get past the idea of this being like a home business side project for stay-at-home mom kind of energy. Again, I don't know if that's symbolic or literal for you, so I'll let you decide what relevance that may or may not have. But anyway, Three of Coins, something to consider. Craft and art. I don't know what you do for a living or if you're a homemaker, but there's a sense of working with your hands and very tactile craftsman kind of things. So kudos for you for whatever it is. So you can kind of see the pattern there, you know. Have confidence in what you want to do. You'll have more options than you may think. Creativity and inspiration is a factor. Don't forget to have fun with it, but the world is your oyster. Again, reinforcing the idea of playfulness, laughter, but lots of options. And again, the idea of teamwork, getting help when you need it, advice, working together, even for a solo art project. So you don't have to go entirely alone, even if it is something creative that you're just doing yourself mostly, is kind of the message here. And boy, is that a nice card to get in that position. As you remember, this is the card that is assets, things that are working in your favor. The Ace of Pentacles, which is just another way of saying coins, again, has to do with the physical realm. It's almost a good luck kind of card. Although luck's not the best way to describe it, but it's kind of a reassurance kind of card might be a better way to say it. It's saying that if you pursue things perhaps with that and work on that confidence the top card was talking about, then you're on a good path. This is kind of a reinforcing card, reassuring card, letting you know that your assets right now is that you're in an energy environment and on a path that's on its way to success, even though it may not seem that way in the short term. If you look out long term, plan long term, use some smarts and confidence, you can wind up in a good place. The chances are good. Like I said, it's not a 100% prediction, but the word slipstream comes to mind. It's almost the mental image of someone who's in a kayak. I don't know if you're familiar with whitewater and kayaking and canoeing, that kind of things. But the mental image that comes is someone in a kayak who is in a good setup to run the river. if that makes any sense. It's like they're in a spot where they can work with the current without much steering. Everything's kind of set up to just kind of slipstream down the rapids in a good, safe way to get where they want to go. I don't know if you do any outdoorsy things like that, but that's the mental image that comes to mind, and I hope you understand it. But if not, if you have any questions about this, just get in touch with me, and we'll try and find a clearer way to say things for you. And this card is what I call the cautions card. Any of the cards can be advice or cautions, but this card is particularly a heads up to let you know things that could trip you up at some point in the future. And even though the Cups card has to do with external relationships, the Page of Cups is almost like the Wands cards. It's more of you and your relationship with you. In this case, dealing with demons might be your biggest stumbling block as you go through caring for the family, making your decisions, letting loose that awesome creativity that you seem to have. But I think the demon you're dealing with is actually related to the confidence card. So when you find yourself feeling not confident, feeling like old issues are kind of cropping up again, be sure to take care of that, because letting old emotional wounds go, not dealing with demons, not clearing out old energies, they can build and become a big stumbling block. So this is a card that classically has to do with letting go of old problems, dealing with those old demons, clearing out any old negative energy, and getting a fresh start. So if you come across any stumbling blocks like that, the advice of this card is to take things head on and not hide demons. It's like you might want to, if there's a fish in your cup, you might not want to look at it. You might want to cover up something that's strange. But you see how this guy is staring that little fish down. So have confidence, deal with those demons, and instead of sweeping it under the rug, take any old emotional issues head on. And I'm reminded here a little bit of that old phrase that sunshine's the best antiseptic. I don't know if there's any old family issues, maybe not with your closest, like, spouse, children kind of relationships, but if there's any big family, like extended family issues that have been festering, it may help your closer family to get rid of that unspoken stress and clear out any issues with the in-laws, so to speak. Again, just symbolic, not necessarily the actual literal situation for you. And that seems to be all for the card. I'm not getting any other sense of anything else that needs to be added. At the end of going card by card, I step back and look at all of the cards together again. In this part, I do what's called a cold reading or scrying or a summary. That's where I just kind of look at the cards and see if there's any other intuitive information that comes through, whether it's related to your specific question, to any of the specific cards, or not. At any point during a reading, it's a little hard to do, making a YouTube recording. But sometimes if I do stop and just kind of think, it's like I'm listening, or trying to let that intuitive information come through for you. This part, for whatever reason, I don't know why, tends to start with colors, and again my eye is drawn to all the golds, especially the golden yellow of the Fool card in the center. I think that may be a symbolic thing, working with the chakra that we were talking about earlier, that self-confidence, bolstering the solar plexus chakra might be of real benefit for you. I don't have the information at my fingertips, but if you have access to the internet or any books about chakras, you might want to look and see if there's any other techniques other than color that can help support that particular energy center. Like wearing gold is one way. Sometimes there are other associations like gemstones. wearing or carrying a piece of citrine, which is a golden yellow colored quartz type mineral, is good for that as well. The extra added benefit of citrine is it's supposed to be an attractant for wealth. So if you're doing anything related to starting a business or pursuing a creative career or anything like that, perhaps citrine would be a 2-for-1 offer for you. It boosts confidence, supports the solar plexus chakra, and it's supposed to be, in some old feng shui traditions, good for attracting wealth because of its symbolism. You know, the color gold, like attract like. So a yellow stone helps attract gold and money. And I don't remember if you told me if you were married or not, but there is a feeling of a male who's very supportive. I want to say he has kind of a happy-go-lucky personality, a bit like the guy in the card there. But again, acknowledging, validating. Thank him for that. Allow that to comfort you. And there the energy steps back. I don't get much more coming through at that point. And that's usually where a reading will wrap up. If you have any questions about your reading, feel free to get in touch with me. I know you know how, because we set all this up. For anyone else, if you would be interested in getting either a 7-card reading like this by recording, by email, or if you're in the South Hills area of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we can maybe even work in person if you're interested in a live reading. If you're outside of the South Hills area, we can always work by Skype as well, which is kind of a combination of an in-person reading. We would work real time over the internet, but it would be a remote recording like this. If you have any questions about readings or want to learn more, please visit modernoracletarot.com. There's an extensive blog archive that has years worth of free daily meditation type tarot readings, question and answer posts, and of course contact information, how to order a reading, all your own, customized just for you. Well, thanks for listening, and thanks again to ND for sharing her reading with us. I really appreciate it, and let's all thank her for helping me help you. Thanks again, and have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.